Hi everyone, my name's Alice Fallon. I'm the Head of Community Engagement at the Severn Rivers Trust.
Hello, I'm Alice Deans and I'm the Volunteering Officer on the Unlocking the Severn project.
We're going to be talking to you today about the role of citizen science in the Shad monitoring research we've been doing as part of the Unlocking the Severn project. So just to firstly give a little bit of background to the Severn Rivers Trust, we are a conservation charity. We were set up in 2008. We're the only organisation that covers the whole of the River Severn from the source to the estuary, and we're part of a movement of over 60 rivers trusts in the UK. We've got a huge catchment that we cover over 2 countries, so Wales and England, and multiple counties with lots of rural and agricultural communities, but also some major urban centres too, including Shrewsbury, Gloucester, the Black Country, and Tewkesbury as well. And we know that it's one of the iconic rivers of the UK, the longest river in the UK, and is home to some really important habitats and spectacular rivers within our area, with sites that are protected by law, sites of special scientific interest and special areas of conservation. We run in 3 operational teams. We've got a land management team, a community engagement team and a river restoration team.
So why did we use citizen science as part of this project? Well, the main aim was to collect data to make a population run size estimate through counting at upload. We've used it to verify the presence of species through carrying out eDNA sampling. We've also used citizen science to observe shad spawning to demonstrate that the fish passes are working. The reason we've done this is it allows a large-scale data collection during the shad run that we wouldn't ordinarily be able to do just using project staff. And it's also allowed us to increase the local understanding and appreciation of the shad run and more broadly about fish and river health and barriers to migration.
Great. And one of the main sites where we've been doing our citizen science recording has actually been downstream from Worcester in Tewkesbury at a site called Upper Lode, where there's a navigation weir which has actually got a historic notch taken out of the weir structure. So part of the weir has been removed to allow fish passage, and this means that it doesn't pose a significant barrier to shad, although we do know they're slowed down and they can actually get upstream. So that has been established during previous monitoring seasons to show that they can still get over that barrier. And from the picture here, you can see these whiteboards, which have been installed to make it easier to spot the fish as they're swimming by. And it's also a great site with public access via a footpath over the meadow, the Severn floodplain meadow. And yeah, so it means it's a site that's used by dog walkers, used by local people. People feel very connected to the river there, but a lot of them didn't really know fish were swimming in the river. So it's been a great chance for us to meet people and explain more about the project and get them involved. We did target local people with our recruitment, so lots of dog walkers, anglers using the site regularly, and residents who walk there. It's a really wonderful green space in quite an urban community. And then we developed a method statement, so delivered training on site and support to set up independent volunteering, so people could go out from mid-April to early June and make direct observations of fish as they crossed upstream of the weir. In 2018 and 19, we also ran school visits to Upper Lode. So we had some fantastic days out with children from local schools, years 3, 4 and 5, so 7 to 11-year-olds who actually came and took part in the direct observation counts, and they contributed data to our citizen science research. It was a really popular activity, and we got feedback from teachers to say that children who were normally very badly behaved or struggled to kind of hold their attention in classrooms were amazingly well behaved on these visits and just loved seeing the fish, being by the river and spending time outdoors. So we've kind of used what we learned when we were doing the activities in Tewkesbury, and although we're not running them again in subsequent years, we kind of implemented a lot of the really successful approaches to the activities at Diglets. And now that's the focus of the school's engagement and riverside visits.
In terms of what the volunteers have done at Upper Lode that Alice just referred to, so they would visit as individuals or with friends and family and watch the notch. They'd start off by recording 2 environmental conditions, so this would be cloud cover and water clarity, and this helped us to determine whether there was any environmental factors affecting the migration. And then once they've done those, they would count the number of successful passes upstream and downstream during a set period of time. So we set this as between a minimum of 20 minutes and a maximum of 40 minutes counting, based on them having to stand looking at the notch for concentration required for that period of time. And once they've recorded the data, they would submit it online. Last year, we developed a new online submission so that the data could come straight through to us, and that's proved to be really good. And for the last 2 years, the last year and this year, we've also used a rota system to set up priority times for the volunteers to go down and carry out these observations. So from 2018, you can see the data here on this graph, and this shows that the data from April through to June, and this fits with the expectation that the peak migration time would be during mid-May. So the shad will typically come into the river from end of April and be around in the river until the end of May, early June, but the majority of them generally come through during that May period. As well as collecting important scientific data, there's lots of benefits to the volunteers that are involved. So you can see here we've got a picture of one of our volunteers sat at Upperload doing the observations, and we've also got a couple of quotes here for showing the kind of pleasurable side of it, so the enjoyment of them being out there in the countryside, describing how liberating the carrying out the volunteering is, and the benefits to the sort of health and well-being from doing this as well.
And it was a real shame actually during the pandemic when all of our carefully planned training and monitoring for the 2020 of course had to be cancelled. We couldn't go out to site, we couldn't meet volunteers, and most of our staff were put on furlough for the project. So that was a massive disappointment for us, and by the time we got to the 2021 season, we were really thinking about how we could be flexible and adapt our volunteering offer in case of further complications because of COVID. And luckily we did that, because again there was another lockdown at the beginning of the year, and community engagement really suffered. But we knew people were very keen to be involved. A lot of people, particularly students, were unable to be doing field work, and were unable to spend much time outside, or be doing kind of social interactions. So we really wanted to offer something that could act as a bit of a substitute. So online monitoring did offer us a way for people to volunteer remotely from home. And it's actually a really nice way to engage people who even under usual conditions wouldn't necessarily be able to come out to Tewkesbury and visit the river. So via the Unlocking the Severn website, anyone could log on. They could read a really nicely written how-to guide with images and explanation of what to do, and very quickly kind of be trained up to watch a short clip from the camera Upperload, and you can see an image of it there of what they saw on the website, and all they needed to do was watch the water flowing by, work out which way was upstream and downstream, which was really helpfully shown on the image itself, and then count the number of shad that they observed swimming upstream. There's also an opportunity for them to note any other observations or species that they saw, or note any kind of questions or anything interesting that they'd observed during that video clip. And then to try and give it a bit of incentive and a bit of fun, there was a leaderboard with badges, so that they were really encouraged to take part and felt valued for contributing that time, even if it was just a minute or two helping with the shad count online. And we also found this was a great way to engage young people as well, so young adults. I mentioned earlier about university students who maybe couldn't do practical conservation volunteering, and they could still help by logging on and volunteering from home. So we recruited a number of remote volunteers through a webinar that we did in River Conservation Careers to promote the volunteering offers. And students signed up to do this kind of more concentrated period of volunteering, where they committed to watching a number of videos over the course of a couple of months. And it really did attract and help students who had their fieldwork cancelled and limited practical experience due to COVID.
Alongside the sort of counting monitoring that we did, we also did some spawning monitoring. So we did this to try and help us identify where shad was spawning, and to confirm that they were using the fish passes in order to reach new spawning grounds. So the typical time, or the peak time for spawning, is between 11 PM and 2 AM, so it's a nighttime activity. And when they doing their spawning, because the males circulate the females, a very distinctive splashing sound is created, which allows us to sort of locate where it's happening, which is how we're able to go out at night and record where they are spawning. Previous years that we've done this, we've used audio moths and had volunteers doing static nighttime observations, so in areas that we think that they might spawn. This year we're going to try a slightly different method of walking a transect at night and stopping every 400 metres to try and listen and record any spawning activity that we hear. And as I said, the aim of this is to demonstrate that shad are reaching spawning habitat above the weir structures. So this year the focus is going to be upstream and downstream of Beverley, which is the second Unlocking the Fish Pass, Unlocking the Severn Fish Pass that's been done with this project. We're also doing some eDNA sampling. So eDNA has been used as different parts of the project previously, but in 2021 we've tried a new approach using volunteers to carry out this data collection in partnership with Natural England, who are the lead on the research and the technical analysis. The aim of this is to collect genetic material from the river to try and identify the different fish species that are present. In 2022, we're doing this again with volunteers, so we're going to specifically target the shad migration period. So we'll be doing 2 samples at 7 sites within the Unlocking the Severn project area. And this, using volunteers to do this, allows us to cover more sites over a greater area in a shorter space of time. So it allows us to target this, the shad run in particular, over the project area. And it's proved to be a really popular activity, easy to recruit enthusiastic volunteers for, and they seem to find it really engaging and interesting. In terms of, citizen science as part of this project, it's proved to be a really successful part of the project. We have successfully engaged 50 citizen science volunteers and 166 young citizen scientists from local schools. A total of over 35,500 shad have been counted by the citizen scientists at Upper Lode, and circa 10,000 videos were watched online as part of the online monitoring. And the 2022 season, like I say, is going to include some more of direct observations, the spawning monitoring and the eDNA sampling, and it proves to be pretty successful so far, and hopefully volunteers will find it really enjoyable.
Thank you so much for listening and watching our talk. Please do get in touch if you have any questions or comments at all, and we look forward to seeing you all at the conference.